In modern society, we may not have many things, but the internet is absolutely indispensable. However, Vietnam is facing such a challenge recently. Since last year, Vietnam's submarine cable system has aged very seriously. Among Vietnam's existing 5 international submarine cables, 3 trunk cables have failed at the same time, causing the network transmission speed between Vietnam and foreign countries to become extremely slow and sometimes even unable to connect at all. In response to this emergency, Vietnam began to discuss solutions and plans to build more submarine cables. As far as I know, Vietnam has made it clear this time that it hopes that Chinese cable-laying companies can participate in the bidding to help them lay 10 new cables by 2030. However, as soon as this news came out, the United States seemed a little unhappy. Since January 2024, the United States has held at least 6 talks with Vietnam on cable issues, and there are even rumors that the United States may threaten Vietnam to exclude Chinese companies from their plans. So, the question is, why does Vietnam want China to help build these cables so much? And under the pressure of the United States, will Vietnam stick to its decision or compromise? If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now let's get into today's topic. Although we are used to surfing the internet through Wi-Fi, 4G, and even 5G every day, these signals are actually inseparable from the cables laid in the deep sea. Most of the world's international data transmission is completed by these submarine cables. Their main function is communication transmission. To put it bluntly, submarine cables are the core infrastructure of the global internet and international communications. Relying on these submarine cables, long-distance, high-speed data transmission is achieved, connecting all parts of the world tightly together. Because of this, submarine cables are crucial to the connection of the global network and the flow of information, and are the lifeline of modern communications. However, Vietnam has been facing a big problem in recent years, that is the aging problem of submarine cables we mentioned earlier. It is understood that Vietnam's network connection with the outside world mainly relies on 5 submarine cables, namely the AAG cable connecting the Americas, the APG cable connecting the Asia-Pacific region, the SMW, 3 cable connecting the Middle East and Europe, the IA cable connecting the Pan-Asian region, and the A1 cable connecting North Africa and Southern Europe. But these cables have been in service for more than 10 years and are obviously unable to cope with Vietnam's growing network needs. Since 2023, Vietnam's international submarine cables have frequently failed. In June this year, 3 of the 5 cables struck at the same time, which directly led to a serious decline in Vietnam's international internet connection speed, and even a complete disconnection. Many people reported that visiting local websites is still okay, but once you want to open a foreign web page, it takes 20 seconds or even longer to wait for the page to load. Faced with such severe challenges, the current priority of the Vietnamese government is to advance the construction of submarine cable infrastructure as soon as possible. However, since most of these previous cable projects were undertaken by foreign companies, Vietnam itself does not have enough technical reserves to independently complete such a complex project. Therefore, Vietnam decided to seek help from the international community, hoping that some countries would participate in the bidding and help them complete this vital project. But did you know? Submarine cable projects have always been considered one of the most complex and challenging infrastructure projects in the world, and there are not many companies that have the ability to manufacture and lay submarine cables. Looking around the world, the countries that are mainly engaged in such projects include the United States, China, the United Kingdom, Japan, Germany, and Russia. This time, the Vietnamese government is very eager to cooperate with Chinese companies. So why? Among so many countries, does Vietnam favor Chinese companies so much? As far as I know, Vietnam chose Chinese companies for 2 key reasons. First, China is Vietnam's largest trading partner. As the economic and technological cooperation between the two countries continues to deepen, the demand for data transmission is also increasing. Second, Chinese companies have advanced technology and rich experience in submarine cable construction and can provide Vietnam with high-quality and stable services, which is naturally an attractive choice for Vietnam, which is in urgent need of improving its network infrastructure. More importantly, compared with other international competitors, Chinese companies are also more competitive in bidding prices. It is said that China's offer is about 8% lower than that of companies in other countries. For Vietnam, which has a limited budget and is in urgent need of solving network problems, this is undoubtedly a rare opportunity. According to Vietnam's plan, once this cooperation is finalized, China will help Vietnam open at least 10 new submarine cables by 2030. Together with the existing 5, the total capacity of the entire system is expected to reach 350 Tbit/s, which will be a huge leap for Vietnam's network development. According to the plan, Vietnam will first activate 4 new cables by 2027, and their goal is to continue to use Singapore, Hong Kong, China, and Japan as major digital connection hubs to further improve the efficiency of international data transmission. In the next second phase, it is expected that from 2028 to 2030, the remaining 6 cables will be gradually put into use, thus greatly expanding Vietnam's network capacity. It is worth noting that 90% of the newly added network capacity will be connected to major digital centers in Asia, while the rest will be connected to Europe and America to ensure smooth transmission of global data. Not only that, Vietnam has also set a longer-term goal and plans to complete the 3rd phase in 2035 to become a key digital hub. Through this series of measures, Vietnam can not only vigorously develop local data centers, but also build a complete cloud computing service platform to comprehensively promote the country's digital transformation. However, it is puzzling that since Vietnam has expressed its desire to cooperate with Chinese companies, the United States has been strongly opposed to this cooperation. So, what is going on behind the scenes? In fact, the United States began planning as early as 2020 to try to weaken China's influence in the submarine cable industry. In order to achieve this goal, the United States has actively joined forces with some European countries to try to formulate new rules in the cable industry to explicitly exclude Chinese companies and suppliers. Specifically, the U.S. plan is that in all future submarine cable projects, as long as Chinese suppliers are involved, whether it is technology or materials, they must be excluded. In this way, the United States is trying to create an independent cable industry alliance to ensure that there are no Chinese elements in the entire industry chain. However, things did not develop exactly as the United States expected. Although the United States tried to suppress China's submarine cable companies, these measures did not produce the expected results. Instead, they prompted Chinese companies to accelerate the pace of self-reliance and promote their own development. Data shows that in less than 10 years, China's submarine cable companies have expanded rapidly, especially in regions such as Southeast Asia and Latin America, and have made significant progress. It is expected that Chinese companies will undertake approximately 45% of global submarine cable orders between 2023 and 2028. This means that China has become an important force in the global submarine cable market, which is undoubtedly an unexpected development for the United States. Among them, Huawei Communications is one of the fastest growing companies in the submarine cable market, and it is the target of Vietnam's planned cooperation this time. It is worth mentioning that the predecessor of Huawei Communications is the well-known Huawei Marine Network. As early as 2018, the Trump administration imposed sanctions on Huawei on the pretext of national security. Under pressure, Huawei sold its marine network business to Hungtong Optics in 2019 and was later renamed Huawei Communications. Although Huawei Communications is no longer affiliated with Huawei, the United States is still pursuing it in this cooperation with Vietnam and continues to suppress this Chinese company. In addition, the United States has sent officials and corporate representatives to frequently contact Vietnam, still using national security as an excuse to try its best to obstruct cooperation between China and Vietnam. Since January 2024, the United States has held at least 6 talks with Vietnam on the issue of submarine cables, trying to exclude Chinese companies from Vietnam's cable construction plan. In fact, there may be another deeper reason behind the United States' opposition to Chinese companies' participation in Vietnam's submarine cable project. As we said at the beginning, whoever controls the submarine cable is equivalent to controlling the lifeline of global data flow. The United States has been trying to build a global data network dominated by it, and put other countries into the so-called data cage. This also explains why the United States is so concerned about Chinese companies' involvement in Vietnam's submarine cable project. Because once Chinese companies control this project, China's influence in the field of global data transmission will inevitably expand further, which will be a huge challenge for the United States. Even more surprising is that a Vietnamese insider revealed that U.S. officials not only kindly shared with Vietnam the so-called Vietnam submarine cables may face destruction intelligence, but also implicitly threatened that if Vietnam cooperates with Chinese companies, American companies may reduce their investment in Vietnam. It is obvious that the United States is using various means to put pressure on Vietnam to try to prevent Chinese companies from participating. However, despite these threats, Vietnam did not compromise easily. Although the project partners have not yet been finalized, Vietnamese officials have publicly stated, "We will not give up cooperation with Chinese companies because of pressure from the United States." So, will Vietnam eventually ignore the pressure from the United States and continue to promote cooperation with China? From Vietnam's perspective, whether to exclude China's cooperation is indeed a difficult choice. If Vietnam chooses to cooperate with China, it means that they will risk ignoring the US's demands, which may lead to sanctions or other forms of economic retaliation from the United States. In this way, Vietnam is caught in a very complicated situation. On the other hand, in the construction of submarine cables, they also hope to obtain the most advanced technology and cost advantages, and China obviously has these conditions. Therefore, whether it is to completely exclude Chinese companies or ignore US warnings, Vietnam is facing an extremely difficult dilemma. So, what do you think of this situation? To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.